telling me that they use a person there, like it was somebody from San Diego. I can't remember if it was Peggy or not, but they use somebody who makes them for her, and that they make them for clients and stuff for different, with different sayings and different purposes.
Sure. Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. That's kind of sweet. And they're like the thing that you keep in your pocket, to like.
I actually had, I probably threw them out, but I had some. It was like a weight. I don't think it was a Weight Watcher thing. I think it was a Jenny Craig thing, actually, back in the 90s when I did the Jenny Craig thing. Actually, did you see that Jenny Craig is closing up shop?
No.
Yeah, there was an announcement last week. They're closing up shop. What is anyway? Only the good stuff, right? We're only talking about the good stuff. But yeah, they had a.
Maybe it's good. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, it kind of makes sense because, and their whole thing was they gave you the food. You got the food from them, but now there's so many options with that, and all the home delivery meals and all that kind of stuff of any kind of dietary restriction and all of that. So it kind of makes sense because that was kind of their shtick is, you didn't have to have to go shop and buy the food and try to make it. They did it for you. So I kind of get that makes sense now that they're able to move on because there's people have a lot of options. So that's the good side of it is people have those options now.
Yeah, that is a good side. Well, and their food was expensive. And well, I mean, now I don't know how it's changed since I was involved because I was involved with them back in the 90s. But so that's been a minute. But
yeah, but my good friends ran the center, the one that they had at Illinois Center at the state building.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he ran that facility. Yeah. Years ago.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it was a good program. They had the coaching and everything, and it was a good program. But I thought the food was expensive, and actually, I felt like it. I mean, it was a lot of very processed food, which, of course, that's changed too. But
yeah,
in the 90s, people didn't care that much about that. But so
we thought that was a good thing back then.
They thought it was a good thing. Well, I don't know.
That you could make the snack wells. Remember snack wells? That they could take all of the fat out of those devil's food brownie cookies.
Oh, right. Yes.
Chocolate covered. And I'm sure those were processed to hell and back, but like those were they couldn't even keep them in the stores. They were like selling so fast, and people were buying 20 bags at a time and everything.
And they found out that and then they had the fake fat that they were making the potato chips with.
Olestra.
And then people were getting all kinds of problems we're having all sorts of problems, intestinal problems with.
Yeah. I think they were going right through them. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, but no, I've been getting the Green Chef deliveries, and I mean we've been doing it for a while now, so actually we've gotten kind of tired of it maybe a little bit, but the food is very good, and and they have all kinds of options, and now they're adding like breakfasts and lunches you can get, of course. So it's but that whole thing kind of sprung up really during COVID, I would say. That whole.
Did you remember to cancel this week's?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I was going to say I went on to because we won't be here next week because I'll be in England. And
you can always call in if you want.
I could always call in, but I won't because it'll be dinner time when they're 6 hours ahead of us, so it'll be dinner time there instead of noon. But and my friend has this. I think I'm gonna have to come home from vacation to and have a vacation from the vacation, because she has so many things planned for us to do that I think it's going to be exhausting, but but anyway, because it's a long flight, they're actually going to feed me a meal, and I went in to select my meal, and they probably have 15, 20 options of meals. I mean, they have the standard, meal, of course, and then they have kosher, which and then they have different Hindu, Indian um, meals, vegetarian with Indian spices, and they have vegan, vegetarian, which is what I selected. They have Jain, Jain.
Mhm.
I've never even heard of that. What is that? Do you know?
That's religion. Jainism is religion.
But what are their food things? Do we?
I don't know. I don't know what their food
And
restrictions
they
are.
have halal, of course. There's halal.
Mhm.
I mean, it's like, how does anybody keep
Yeah,
trying? I mean, right?
yeah. But speaking of that, just reminded me, we were at Avli last night with my brother-in-law, the one over here by us in River
Where? You
North.
were where?
Avli,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. And a friend of mine was telling me the other day that, because we were talking about how well Avli has done since the pandemic and all the new ones they've opened, and how, busy they all are and all that. It's done really well. But my friend was telling me that there is there's nonstop flights to Athens from Chicago. I don't remember if it was United. I think it's United. I don't know if it was United or American or what, but he said these worked out a deal. They're going to be serving the Avli food on that flight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
That's really interesting.
I don't know how often you see that, like a particular restaurant being the restaurant of service for a particular route, but but I
Yeah.
thought that was interesting. Yeah.
Well, actually, is United headquartered here in Chicago? They are, right?
Yeah.
They still
Yeah.
are, aren't they? Because
Yeah.
I remember back in the early 2000s, I had a client who was involved with their food service and meal planning and whatnot, and
Mhm.
I think they do that. I mean, I think they contract out with local kitchens and stuff to provide the meals. I mean, I don't think that's
Well, there's I forgot what it's called. There's the big food service company, but they've done different foods from Chicago or whatever. But I to my recollection, I've never heard of, like, if you fly to Athens, you get Greek food from Avli from Chicago. You know what I mean? It's like for a particular route because of where you're going, they're
uh-huh.
serving you that food or whatever. So I'd never heard of that, but they might have a Chicago style pizza on flights, or they might have, cookies that are made here or what, they might have Frango mints or something like that, but not like, if you fly to Athens, you get Avli dinner, that sort of thing. But I think it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's certainly good promotion of Lee, and
Yeah. Yeah.
right. Yeah. I mean, people come here. Actually, my my niece. She lives over at 1400 Lakeshore,
Mhm.
and I was talking to my brother who's in DC, um, and they're talking about getting together. When I can't remember the conversation because he's not coming here, so I'm not sure how this came about. But for whatever reason, he got onto Google Maps. He's like, well, maybe we could do dinner at Avli, and I'm like, well, Lakeshore at Lakeshore East, they have a big Avli there, but
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's not exactly easy to get to from 1400 Lakeshore Drive, I don't think.
The one by me would be easier, but what he might have seen on a map
Mhm.
is they now have a place on the roof of that North Avenue, the beach house or whatever, the big ship.
Oh,
Beach, they have the rooftop there.
oh, really?
So maybe that's what he saw on a
Maybe
map or
that's what he
something.
saw then. That would
And
make sense. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a limited menu. It's
Well,
more like
yeah, I think the park district contracts those out for the season, right?
yeah, but they were there last year too, but it's
Mm-hmm.
Like I
Well,
said,
like
I
up
think it's
here at
just like
Burger
a
Park,
very limited thing, but yeah.
like,
But they have Winnetka, Lincoln Park, River North, West Loop, the one off Randolph, and the rooftop at North Avenue. Oh, and I think they're at
well, isn't the one on Randolph, isn't that West Loop?
no,
Oh,
no, East Randolph, the one you were talking about, the old three.
oh, Lakeshore East,
Yeah.
Lakeshore
Yeah.
East. Yeah, okay, yeah. That's actually not on Randolph. That's down on the cul-de-sac around Lakeshore East down there.
Well, sort of. It's right at Randolph and the street. It's
They
it's
call
on
it,
the building.
I think they call that, no,
It's on the building where Mariano's is. It's on top of that. It looks down at that part.
yeah, but it's not, but you don't access it from
I
Randolph.
think it's Benton. I think it's Benton. Yeah, you access it from Randolph. Yeah. I mean, you have to go down Randolph and turn into the neighborhood to get to it. It's
Right,
right
yeah,
off Benton
but you
Place.
access it from the neighborhood though, from that cul-de-sac down there.
No, you access it from Benton Place, the street that connects you to that from Randolph to the loop around the park.
Yeah, okay.
That's where you pull into the parking garage. It's literally like 20 yards off of Randolph.
Okay.
But
I haven't been there, so I don't know, but
yeah.
I'm just trying to find it here.
So that there's the street that connects you to that.
Yeah, Field Boulevard.
Yeah, field. That's it. Yeah.
And then Benton Place is the circle.
Yeah, right.
And you come in, yeah, you come in.
You turn off a field and then the parking, the
You go
driveway,
around, and
the
you go
parking's
around the
right.
circle and you go into the
No,
park.
no, you don't. I'm saying you turn off of Randolph onto
Field Drive.
immediately to your left is a driveway that goes into the garage for it.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right. But it's actually behind the Blue Cross Blue Shield building. It's behind the Blue Cross Blue Shield building.
No, it's to the east of the. I'm telling you, Mary. I don't care what you're seeing on the map.
Okay. All right. Well,
the building, it's 340 East Randolph.
It's
the residential building, 340 East Randolph. The Marianos and all that is built
right.
It.
And between Field Drive and 340 is the Blue Cross Blue Shield building, isn't there?
No, I think it's the other way around.
Oh, okay.
Blue Cross Blue Shield is west of 340 Randolph.
Is it? It's 300? Okay. All right. Maybe. Okay. Maybe. Well,
anyway,
there is a building there.
Right
what
there.
Is that building then?
It used to be. Do you remember when Three Forks was there? It was the steakhouse. It was there for several years.
Before Obley, you mean?
Yeah, that's
But what's the
building?
But the question that I have is, what's the building that's right on the corner there, east of 340?
I don't think there is one east. Maybe I have it backwards in my head, but I think.
Well, maybe there isn't one. I thought.
Yeah.
And then on the east side of Field Boulevard is 400 East Randolph, of course. So it'd have to be like maybe 380 or 360 East Randolph, something like that.
I guess is the Buckingham. I thought the Buckingham was.
No, that's it. That's what it is. It's a Buckingham. You're right.
Okay, I was thinking it was
Buckingham. Yeah.
The Blue Cross Blue Shield is west of
340. So yeah, okay. But so it's like directly behind the Buckingham.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
And you pull the driveway.
Is behind the
garage runs between the Buckingham, and it's almost like the alley basically between Randolph and the.
I mean, it's really amazing what's happened over there in the last 10 years in that Lakeshore East and how they've developed it. I mean, when I was a student, I lived at 400 East Randolph with my folks, and it was out there. 400 East Randolph was out there all by itself, and then they built
for a long time.
For a long time, and actually it was built on the Illinois Central right, air rights to Illinois. It was all railroad tracks down there, and then
And then they had the golf course, remember?
and they had yeah, it was like a little like a pitch and putt kind of golf course thing, and for years and years that was down there. But I know it's kind of amazing. Well, I think what happened was is that the federal government uh, took all that land back from the railroads because they had given the railroads all that land. And then I think sometime in the late 80s or early 90s that they rescinded all that. And that really is what opened that whole thing up because all that land was owned by Illinois, by the railroads. Anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's changed a lot. And that
Well,
off-lease space there is really nice. That's a really pretty one that it's got big terraces, outdoor terraces and everything. We'll look out over that park and it's a really nice build out. It's a beautiful spot. Yeah.
So I'm leaving for England on Wednesday, and fortunately I bought my airfare long before they announced when the coronation was going to be.
Oh.
And so I actually got a great price on my airfare, and like, thank God I did that.
Oh. So even now it would be high, you think, because of even after the fact?
Yeah, I don't
So close
know.
to
I
it?
don't know. I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, did you watch any of it at all, or no? Me neither. Yeah, I just heard
I'm
that.
not really into the whole monarchy thing, and then especially with this
Well, I don't know.
particular.
I don't know how many people are actually. I mean, they had all these protesters and with signs out, "He's not my king," and and all this stuff. And
That sounds familiar.
I know, right? And um, I don't know. I mean, I think Charles is a mild-mannered guy, and what's not to like about him in a way.
Well, it was on, I noticed it was on like every network. It was, I mean, it was on like when I was flipping around looking at the TV guide, it was on like 20 channels or something. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to get on YouTube and watch at least the some of it because of the music, and they always do such a great job uh with the music and stuff.
Pageantry.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the pageantry, and they commission original compositions and stuff like that. So I definitely want to watch that part anyway. But it's always that part's always fun. I enjoy that. But yeah, but the funny thing is that the anti-monarchists in England are called Republicans because they're for the republic and not for the monarchy. So they're the, I mean, it's so funny the difference in the terminology, because when you talk Republicans here, you talk,
Well, that's not that different. Are you saying they're the anti-monarchists? Or are they
yes,
the,
yes,
oh, okay.
yes. The conservatives, the conservatives are what we would call Republicans in this country,
Mhm.
and the liberals in this country they're Republicans because they're anti-monarchy.
Establishment. Yeah.
In that, yeah, so so you have to be careful how you use the word Republican. It means one thing here and another thing there. So,
Yeah. It's,
and I
yeah,
guess the
it's been a little
Conservative
different.
Party, they had elections last week, and I guess they really took a drumming. So
Hmm.
I don't know, interesting. But anyway, what else is going on?
So you're gonna report back in 2 weeks and tell us everything that happened in England?
Well, yeah.
Are you afraid to commit to that? You're afraid to
I'm afraid to commit
you
to
plan
that
on getting in
because
lots of trouble and don't want to tell us?
well, I don't think I'm going to be getting into too much trouble, but my girlfriend has a pretty chock-a-block itinerary. It sounds like she says you should really come for a month. And so I'm like, okay, well, anyway. Actually, the funny thing is my niece is there. Her son did a semester abroad in London. He did his semester in London, and she's actually there now meeting him. And I guess she comes home the day after I arrive. So I
Hmm.
could, if I wanted to coordinate it, figure out a way to meet up with her and have breakfast or something. But I think it's just too complicated to make the
Sounds
arrangement.
like it.
Right, yeah. Although stranger things have been known to happen. I remember this was back before we all had cell phones, and my brother, who was in the Navy at the time, was stationed in Charleston and moving to DC. And we knew that they were moving, and we knew that they were going to be in town. I was in town for a realtor convention in DC, and I knew that he was moving to DC, but I didn't have the details or the specifics. I just knew that he was going to be there, moving there while I was in town. So I'm walking down the street, and actually Bob had flown out with me and joined me. And after the conference, we did some of the tourist things. Like, and DC is a great city for that. I mean, there's just so much great stuff to see there as a,
There is, yeah.
you know, the memorials and all that stuff, but and the Smithsonian, and you know, there's just a lot of great stuff. Anyway, so we're walking down the street, and here comes my brother in his van, and they're looking for a parking place. I mean, it was like we were, and I was trying, you know, I was calling my mom, like, do you know where they're staying? Or, you know, it'd really be good to see them. And she's like, I have no idea. She didn't know what day they were coming or anything. And we're walking down the street, and here they are. He says, what are you doing here? I'm like, well, what are you doing here?
Yeah, that's funny. That actually has happened to me in DC as well.
What's that?
That's actually happened to me in DC as well.
Where you've run into somebody that you knew was going to be there, but
well, they had moved there, and I tried to get their info from an old friend, and they didn't have it. And then I was actually visiting a friend outside of town in Arlington, and we were walking. It was like in a business, like not industrial park, and they had an FDIC like kind of hotel apartment building out there.
for what?
FDIC. My friend worked for FDIC.
Oh,
And they had like an apartment building out in this new kind of like an industrial park outside of where they hadn't really built it up yet. So there were like sidewalks, but no buildings.
huh.
And he didn't have a car. And so I was visiting him, and we had to walk into town, and it was a good 20, 30 minutes through nothing to get to where you could get to a restaurant or something. And we were walking back at night.
Well, what the heck were you doing out there?
That's what I said, visiting my friend that was working for the FDIC.
Okay.
And I tried to get, it was the info for a friend that I grew up with who lived there. And I was trying to get his info, and my girlfriend couldn't give it to me. But anyway, in the middle of nowhere in this commercial industrial park outside of Arlington, and I'm walking back at night, and the sidewalk was dark, and there was like nobody there, but we passed these two people in between the street lights. So it was kind of dark. And then after we passed the person, I was talking to my friend, and all of a sudden we were like, you know, I don't know, 50 yards away or whatever. And I just stopped, and my friend was like, what? And I'm like, I just had this feeling, and I turned around and I yelled, David? And I saw the person at the next street light kind of stop and turn and look at me, and I'm like, David Matthews? It's like, Wes? We ran into each other in an industrial park in the middle of nowhere.
What the hell was he doing there?
He was on a blind date. And they were doing the same thing. They were walking into town. And he lived like in DuPont Circle and like in the middle of DC.
Right, yeah.
And sure enough, I ran into him 2 more times that trip in DC. We ended up like getting to communicating, and then after it happened the second time on the next trip, I ran into him again. This time he ended up dating my friend that I was visiting for several years after that. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it was really weird, but anyway.
That is really weird. That's really weird. That tops my story.
It was a really weird one, but...
Yeah, I think actually we were staying in a like a, I don't know, you know, a Comfort Inn Suites or something, you know, something like that. And my brother actually ended up staying with me. I don't know what happened to my. I can't. I don't remember the details anymore. Bob might remember more than I do, but it was more. It was a little bit of. Yeah, it was
My
really.
sister and brother-in-law were on a trip about 2 years ago in Boston, and they went with their friends that they always travel with, and they were on the Freedom Trail in Boston. And my brother-in-law goes, "There's your cousin," and it was my. They were visiting my sister and brother-in-law were there from Oklahoma, and I have a cousin who's like the son of my cousin, my second cousin, I guess, was just standing there, and um he was just, they were like, and he was somebody who's like doesn't travel. um yeah, it was really, really weird. And he was like, "There's your cousin." And my sister was like, "Dustin?" He's like, "What are you doing here?" And he was traveling with his father. His parents are separated, like long divorce for decades, and he was with him and his family. And they didn't even know he was going to be in Boston, and he was just there on the Freedom Trail with them. It was really weird. Yeah.
That is weird. So this happens to you all the time, in other words.
Yeah, kind of. I've got a few stories like that. Yeah.
That's weird.
My kind of group of friends, there was people, it was kind of funny back in the day when people would say, "Well, how do you know each other?" We would just laugh because it was this weird, twisted sort of
Right.
way we
Yeah.
all knew each other in like 5 different ways that we were all
Yeah.
connected, and it was very strange.
Well, I
But
mean, this used to happen to me a lot in Chicago. Is kind of like such a, and this happens a lot. Like you're standing on the L platform and you see somebody that, on the train or whatever, get on or off or whatever. Or you're at a restaurant and run into somebody. I mean, it happens all the time. And like
yeah,
Chicago's like the biggest small town in the world, I think.
yeah, yeah, I think it's true. Because I
Right.
think people here, I was just telling this recently, I grew up in Tulsa, and although the city is much smaller, the whole city is kind of a circle. Like in Tulsa, the whole city is kind of a socioeconomic, whatever circle. You could be all over the city.
Uh-huh.
And Chicago is like a bunch of circles. You know what I mean? And when
Yeah.
I first moved here and I was living in Lincoln Park and working on Michigan Avenue, I would see like people in my building in the elevator in the morning, and then I would see them at the bus stop. I would see certain people on the bus, and then I go to Michigan Avenue, go to work. When I would go out for lunch on Michigan Avenue, I'd walk around, I'd see many of those same people. It
Yeah.
was so strange to me moving to this big city,
Yeah.
thinking like, I'll be totally anonymous. And I would see more people I knew than I ever did growing up in Tulsa. When you went out to a restaurant, my dad might know somebody or whatever, but the circles are so much smaller here because of, I don't know, like neighborhoods, ethnicity, socioeconomics, all that. The
Yeah.
circles are smaller, and
Mhm.
it acts more like a small town,
Yeah.
so it is interesting that way.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely true. That's definitely true. And it's funny when you see somebody out of context too, and you don't like you see the guy, the cashier at the convenience store down on the corner, and then you see him on the L, and it's like, I know that guy, but why do I know that
Yeah,
guy?
right.
Or something, yeah. So
Yeah, it happens a
anyway.
lot.
All right. Well, everybody have a good week. We won't be here next week, but we'll see you the week after. I mean, we had some lovely spring weather this weekend, so hopefully it'll continue to warm up. And yeah, we went from winter to summer this weekend, and now we're back to winter again today. But
Well, have fun in England.
thanks. Bye.
Bye.